again, it's Ryan Miller with Etna Interactive. And whether you are a CEO of a private equity firm that owns a ton of elective healthcare practices, a solo practitioner, or a marketing manager, I want to talk you through today what's changing in online search and specifically how answer engines like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and Google's AI Overview are going to cause you to change how you think about your marketing. So just imagine as we look into the future that your website may never be seen in the way that it's seen today. Increasingly, patients are bypassing Google and using the answer engines to synthesize information, especially in the earliest days of their procedure research. And often, when they're clicking through and finding their way to the practice, they've already had many of their questions answered and received a summary of your provider's reputations. So, what do we do about this? Well, let's talk first about the impact on traditional search engine optimization. And it's important to keep in mind that today, what the data tells us is that still about 90% of the search traffic is still funneling through Google, whether that's traditional Google search or Google AI reviews. It doesn't really matter so much because they're all encapsulated on the same page. But we are seeing really a steady increase in the demand and use of AI engines overall. Traditional search, if we reflect on that old paradigm, I like to think of it like a dictionary, where we're looking for answers in a singular definition or the best definition to a specific word or phrase, the keywords that we would focus on that people would enter into traditional search engines. We would then build an optimized page that was like our best definition that we could offer in response to that word or phrase. And we would try to lobby the dictionary owners, in this case, it's usually Google, through backlinks that were like little votes of confidence that our page, our definition was the one that should make it into the dictionary. And ultimately, we were rewarded with click-throughs. And those, well, that old protocol, it's not gone yet, but it's being supplanted and enhanced with a new way of thinking about how to optimize for answer engines in addition to staying front and center with major search engines like Google traditional search. And I like to think is this is a shift from something like a dictionary towards being able to look up an answer with a learned philosopher. And increasingly, as we interact with answer engines, it's a philosopher who may have a bias or a little bit of attitude when they're delivering our answers. But fundamentally, here's what's changing underneath from a strategic standpoint. We're shifting from keywords to thinking about entities. Your brand is an entity. Each of your providers is a distinct entity. Your locations are entities. The answer engines are sophisticated enough to move beyond trying to work from a keyword to the page that best answers or represents the implicit question to understanding how to talk about, reference, and refer to individual entities inside of your practices. In addition to that, we're shifting from the optimized page being the ultimate piece of currency in marketing towards the ecosystem that we build, telling a specific story, reinforcing it at every touch point so that ultimately we can influence the citation, the specific mention. Now, it's important to note here that there are really two different kinds of citations that we have to be concerned with as clinic leaders or as marketers. The brand citation is perhaps the first and most important, and it's most like the old traditional organic search ranking. This might be we're looking for a facelift surgeon in Cleveland, and ChatGPT comes back with a finite list, 3 to 5 providers that are mentioned by name or brand name with direct links to the practices. That's why those are called brand citations. Citations, which is a little bit confusing, are any mention of your brand in which you influence the answer, but it's often represented by a little pill with a link next to it at the end of the answer, or maybe a sidebar in which you were referenced. But specifically in a general citation, you're influencing the answer, but you're probably not mentioned directly. And importantly, what's changing between those old 10 links that you might see on Google and the new world of citations is very often today, we're losing the click through, which is why we need to talk for a second about what this means for you and for your practice. And I guess it depends on whether you are a glass half full or glass half empty kind of person, whether all this change is groundbreaking, kind of exciting, or if it is earth-shattering for you. But we're here to tell you, don't worry, it is entirely something that you can manage and use to your advantage. So the first thing to understand is we're going to see declines in organic traffic, and it's already happening today. Even though Google still retains the lion's share of the search market, its own AI overviews are stealing clicks from business owners who before, if you think of, let's say, I'll use facelift still as my example. If I want to know something about facelift recovery, I might perform a general search on Google, click through 3 or 4 websites, synthesize kind of an averaged response from between those different sources on my own in the old days. Today, Google's AI overview and the answer engines, they're doing that synthesis for us. So I don't need to click through on as many sites. In addition to that, the conversations about brand visibility being about rankings, they're moving towards answer inclusion. Was I cited? Did I appear either through a brand citation or a direct citation? Did I appear somewhere in that answer so that I can get my brand in front of the consumer? In addition to that, and I can't believe that I'm saying this because I've been lecturing at the podium for more than a decade about the importance of online reputation in healthcare. I'm about to say it got more important. Your reputation signals secondary to your website are one of the most important things that determines both whether or not you're going to be cited and how exactly you're described, how that citation appears. And it's incredibly important today that you're mindful not only of active reputation management, but new sites are emerging as the key influencers for different among the answer engines, and knowing just which ones are most important is a topic we'll cover in another video. So content strategy is also changing, and this is not too surprising. Answer engines love conversational context. They're trying to synthesize answers to people's natural language queries in a natural language response. They also love the notion of knowledge gain, posts and pages that add information that isn't readily found on other sources of content on the web. So the implication here is that it's more important that you offer authoritative content that reflects unique experiences and that speaks in a direct and conversational way with the folks who are reading that page. We can expect that answer engine adoption is going to be on the rise. So we're going to see that the market share held by Google is going to be squeezed, but not necessarily because fewer searches are happening on the platform, but just that there are more total searches happening out there because answer engines empower us to search in new and different ways that we never did before. In addition to that, as a business owner and operator, you should expect that somewhere in the next calendar year, you're going to intersect with some robots, not just in the work that you do and like asking for tips on how to make an email a little bit clearer, but actually having robots reach into your practice on behalf of patients. Already the tooling exists for consumers to use bots and assistants, basically digital agents, to do works for them. And it's entirely likely that we're going to see patients using bots, AI agents to request an appointment, a consultation with your practice, to book an appointment, or just to reach out to you to collect information on their behalf. So lots of changes coming in the new year. Let's talk about the fundamentals. And really the biggest question that you need to be thinking about as a marketer or a business owner leader is what you want to be known for. And I know this seems like a fairly fundamental question, but for a lot of clinics, in the world of traditional search engine optimization, it's been a fairly level playing field to say, well, I can do 60 different things. I want to rank for 60 different things. The conversation shifts when we're talking about you as an entity with a specific reputation. It's a tough lift to expect answer engines to perceive you as a specialist or expert in 60 different procedures. So it's time to pick a lane. Let's talk about the answer engine fundamentals that are going to have the biggest impact in how you're represented in the early days of your answer engine optimization strategy. First and foremost is what I just alluded to there. Identify your expertise brand, what you're going to be known for, and the specific declarations and claims, not just about your clinical excellence, your training, your background, the patient experience, but at the procedure level, how are you differentiated from other providers in your marketplace? Once that is information that's known, it's concrete, and it can be referenced easily, you've got to put it into action. So significant site updates may also be warranted to make sure that that brand message is present on your homepage, your about page, your provider profile pages, each of the procedure profiles, and in a variety of other technical areas of the website, so that it is the first and strongest declaration of how you want to be cited in those answer engines. After that, it's time to pull back and think about your reputation. We want to curate those signals to ensure that we are, if we're saying, for example, that we are an expert in facelift surgery, we're in the Southern California market, if we want to build the case that we are one of the most trusted surgeons for facelift in Southern California, it's important that we're really actively cultivating reputation signals, reviews, and ratings from patients that explicitly mention the facelift procedure to reinforce that message really from places that would be difficult to manipulate so that those answer engines begin to see an accumulation in the ecosystem, in our ecosystem, of these signals that reinforce that same core brand message. After that, we can look across our own owned ecosystem on sites like local sites, our Google Business Profile, our social media profiles, and that both the core descriptions of our business and the content that we're causing to appear there reinforces the same brand message. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's a foundation that I think is important for you to understand when you start thinking about how we're going to control your reputation. Because ultimately, if we don't do it, AI is going to do it for us. And the big shift is away from chasing algorithms, which really has been our mainstay in the tradition of search engine optimization. And it's shifted towards deliberately shaping the narrative about your providers and your practice so that we get the most positive representation that we can on the answer engine search results that are going to be absolutely critical to our practice in the days and years ahead. So on that note, we have an entire suite of products that are designed specifically to help our clients to dominate the answer engines. If you have questions, we're here for you.